Hey everybody, Steve here. Welcome back to Anxiety City, the city that never sleeps, always open for business, symptoms and sensations 24/7. We never close. But please remember, anxiety is temporary. This is where you are, but it's not who you are. Okay? All anxiety symptoms and sensations are temporary and harmless. Please remember that. And that's the good news. The bad news is that every day feels like a lifetime. I know. Now, tonight's topic, the top 10 lies that your anxiety is telling you right now. We're going to start with number one of the greatest lies ever perpetrated on an anxious personality, and it's this. Number one, you're going crazy. Now, I talked about this in my first video. Perfect, thunderstorm. Hopefully we'll get some more sound effects by the end of the video. Now, I talked about this in the first video, but that was 2 weeks ago, and that's a very long time in Anxiety City to have an opinion and be thinking about it. So the truth is this: you cannot go insane from anxiety. It's not possible. You cannot get there from here. And I know that anxiety does present a very, very compelling argument for insanity. I know. When you've got GAD, DPDR, it feels so strongly like it's insanity. Let's just say, for example, that you're with a group of people and you're having lunch. Now, God knows why you're having lunch with a group of people, but let's just say that you are. And all of a sudden, a cloud goes across the sun and the entire room goes dark. Now, you've got GAD and DPDR. For you, it's like you've just been dropped into a horror movie from the 1970s. And you look around and everybody else is having a perfectly lovely time and you're going, shit, I'm in the Omen. And it feels like insanity, and it's almost like there's no other way of explaining it other than insanity. But however strongly it might feel like that, it's actually a cognitive habit. That's all it is. Anxiety is just a cognitive bias towards the fearful. It's not harmful in any way. And also it's there to protect you, to keep you safe. You see, after months of stress, or whatever it is, it's brought you to this situation. Your brain has now decided that it needs to put you on survival mode setting. Okay, so our brain is on survival mode. And all it's interested in now, all your brain is interested in, is just keeping you safe. Okay, so the fear center of your brain is dominant, the amygdala, and the irrational cortex has been suppressed, because forget about enjoying stuff, forget about pleasure or fun. It's not interested. It only wants to keep you safe. And forget about thinking rationally as well. The last thing your brain wants you to do is to be standing there going, I wonder if this is dangerous. Is this dangerous or is this not dangerous? Your brain just wants you gone. Now, insanity, genuine insanity, is very unrestrained. There's no control. But anxiety is the exact opposite of that, because we are control freaks. We want to, because we're on survival mode, we want to control everything in our environment. We want to control our thoughts and everything. So rather than being a malfunction, anxiety is actually an overfunction. It's an overfunction of that part of the brain that's keeping you safe. Okay, and it's an absolutely magnificent piece of equipment. And if you want to know just how magnificent it is, consider the fact that we're here. Okay, this part of the brain has made us so successful in evolutionary terms. It's what kept us going through the hunter-gatherer years when we didn't know if we were going to make it through the next winter. See, mankind, we are the anxious animal. We worry about stuff, which is how we've survived. If our early ancestors hadn't given a shit, we might not even be here. Perfect time for lie number 2. This can't possibly be just stress. This can't be anxiety. This can't be just stress. Just stress. Now, these stress hormones we're talking about, cortisol, adrenaline, norepinephrine, these stress hormones are so powerful, and when they've been flooding your system day in, day out for months and months and years, they're going to produce some really nasty, brutal symptoms and sensations. And if you please go on anxietycenter.com and just look at the list of symptoms that are caused by stress. And it's not just the quantity that blows my mind, it's the quality of them. Okay, so many are so freaking weird, and that's why anxiety freaks everybody out. It's not how many symptoms you've got, it's just how freaking weird they are. If you can explain your symptoms, all of them, you're lucky. Yeah? Very often we get stuff we can't even put into words. That's how powerful stress hormones are. They can bring about these feelings in the body. And the stress hormones, they act on your nervous system, and that's pretty much everything. Everything is nerves, your brain, your body. That's why you can have symptoms related to every single one of your senses, blurred vision, crazy thoughts, derealization, the feeling like you're lost in a dream, lost in a nightmare. These stress hormones are powerful enough to produce all these sensations. If a stress hormone is powerful enough to enable an 80-pound woman to hoist a 2-ton car off her trapped infant child, then yeah, they're powerful enough to make you, have blurred vision and jelly legs and a panic attack. So don't believe the hype, and whatever you do, don't fall for this one. Number 3, this must be some kind of medical condition. Now this is basically, have you noticed that the first 3 lies are basically the same lie? It's your anxiety telling you don't have anxiety, This can't be anxiety, this can't be stress, must be insanity or some medical condition. You must have like a brain tumor or something really seriously wrong with your neurology or your heart or something. This in our frustration, because we feel so awful all the time, we're looking for answers all the time, and in our frustration, we just can't believe it. I mean, by all means, get checked out, go to the doctor, but are you going to be one of these guys that comes back with a complete clean bill of health and says, this can't be right? It says that I'm a completely 100% physically fit human being with absolutely nothing wrong with me. This is bullshit. I feel so awful. These doctors don't know what the fuck they're talking about, and then you go back and do it again and again and again. Go on anxietycenter.com, listen to the Skype calls, listen to how many people have just refused to believe that this is anxiety and caused by stress. And they've gone from pillar to post around the world seeing doctors, neurologists, psychologists, psychiatrists. There was a guy who was one of the top cardiologists in his field in the country. So all his mates were basically like the top 10 cardiologists in the world. And he went to see everybody, and every one of them gave him an absolute clean bill of health, and he still wouldn't believe it. Because the truth is that we just feel so awful 24/7, so we want to look for some outside reason that we can map, so we can say, it's okay, I can go and get this thing fixed, get it out of me. But the truth is that it's just how powerful an effect stress hormones can have on the nervous system. Now, if you're in the early stages of recovery like me, you must have heard this one by now. It's getting worse. Yeah, this is your anxiety lying to you, and again, it makes a very, very compelling argument because it feels like it. Yeah, and that's the point. Anxious personalities, we go by our feelings all the time, and we ignore the facts completely. The fact that it's not an illness, it's not a medical condition, it's poor cognitive behavioral habits that have stirred up the body and now are manifesting symptoms. So if your body is stress response hyperstimulated, then your nervous system is just so stirred up, you can expect pretty much anything at any time. Your body will behave very, very erratically. And you can expect to feel, a lot worse some days than on others. But another reason why I think that anxious personalities will tend to think that it's getting worse is because we will always discount the positives and focus on the negatives and bring that to the fore. And I'll give you an example from my own life. At the weekend, on Saturday, I had a pretty good morning, a shocking afternoon, and a pretty good evening. So I could look back on that day and say it was all shit. I'd say it was a bad day, another bad day with anxiety. Or I could choose to count the positives and say, well, that was pretty much a 2/3 good day. That was 2/3 of a good day then. And I'd be right. The next day, I had a shocking morning. The afternoon I pretty much enjoyed. Had a good time in the afternoon. Good time, a very relative term for anxiety. But in the evening was rough. rough as a bear's arse, and so I could look back on that day and say it was all shit, and I'd be very nearly right, but I'd forget the fact that I had a pretty good afternoon. So you see, I could say that was 2/3 of a bad day. Now I could look at that microcycle of those 2 days and say, this is shit, this is just, it's all shit, it's all been shit, it's all gonna be shit, it's getting worse. Or I could say, well, you know what, Saturday was a pretty good day. Sunday was a bit rough, but it looks like, I could feel a little bit of hope creeping in if I let myself believe that actually Saturday wasn't that bad. Just as a corollary, I love that word, to this lie. When you are at the beginning stages of your recovery and you're getting out there and you're doing recovery work, please remember that you are flying in the face of your very survival instinct itself. Your amygdala, in charge of the fear center of your brain, has only one job, and that is to keep you safe and protected. And so, it's really good at its job. Really good. So it only wants to get your attention. It's supposed to get your attention. So it's going to shout louder and louder all the time. Because one of the brilliant strategies for overcoming problematic anxiety is to do the exact opposite of what your body is telling you to do. Because very often, if you're hyperstimulated, your body is saying, hide, run away, cover yourself, get out of, get away, right? And it's supposed to get your attention, and it's supposed to alert you to a danger that isn't really there. Now, when you're doing the exact opposite of what your survival instinct, the whole mechanism is telling you to do, it's going to shout louder and louder and louder to get your attention. Okay? So in early recovery, you think, fuck, this is getting worse. It's just that your body is just shouting, just trying to get your attention. Imagine that you can see a friend of yours, he's crossing the road, and you can see that there's a car approaching him. It's going to run him over. So you shout, Dave, because that's his name. Dave, car. Now, he can see you, he can hear you, but he's ignoring you. So what do? You shout, Dave, car. And he still ignores you. He can hear you, he acknowledges you, but he still won't get out of the way. And eventually you just end up shouting at the top of your lungs, get away, and that's exactly how it feels in early recovery, especially doing something like exposure therapy, where you're doing the exact opposite of what your body is telling you to do. So when you're going into those places that you've been afraid of, and your body is telling you, what the hell are you doing? We've told this place is not safe, yada, yada, yada. And you keep going back and going in and going in and going back until eventually your body gets the message that, you know what, this place actually is safe. There's never been any danger here. Nothing has ever happened here. And it sounds the all clear and calms down and eventually stops sending you that message in time. And it does take time. And for some of us, it takes longer than others. Everybody's journey is different, and everybody's length of recovery is going to be different. But we need to be prepared for the fact that it will take time. Speaking of which, it's way past my bedtime, so I'm going to wrap up this week with a testimonial from ac.com. They've got loads of these testimonials, letters from people who've recovered, and they've written in to just sort of say thanks. And this one is from Karen P. of the UK, and she writes, last November I fell rapidly into a terrifying pit of symptomatic high anxiety with most of the symptoms mentioned on your website. I knew I had been stressed, but this felt like I was in a 24-hour living hell. It took me 4 months to even accept that this was anxiety, and like most, I visited the doctor many times and had all the neurological tests done. I just couldn't believe that this was just elevated stress. I also thought it must be the beginning of a severe mental illness that would never go away. I know I still have some work to do, but my symptoms have very nearly completely disappeared. But more than that, I have a totally reformed outlook on life and can honestly say, I am glad I went through this. I'm going to say that again. I am glad I went through this, as it has allowed me to reevaluate every aspect of my life. For those out there suffering right now, please know that you will get better. It just takes time. Be strong. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to be strong till next time. Please tune in next time for part 2 of the top 10 biggest lies your anxiety is telling you right now. And just before I go, thank you so much for your comments on Facebook. I like the fact that you're liking the lo-fi, low-budget, no-camera setting of my videos. So yeah, I really appreciate that. So as always, good night and God bless from Anxiety City, ride out the storm, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.